Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Niall Stanage.
Attorney General Pam Bondi participated in a fiery congressional hearing yesterday with Democrats attacking her on a variety of issues, from the Epstein files to the prosecution of James Comey. But Bondi gave as good as she got. Take a look.
Do you believe that government officials like Gregor Bovino are obligated to follow applicable court orders, whether they agree with them or not? Yes or no?
First, Senator Padilla, you have gone on for over 5 minutes, and I wish that you loved your state of California as much as you hate President Trump. We'd be in really good shape then, because violent crime in California is currently 35% higher than the national average.
I do want to go back to Homan. You know, there's a tape, right, with Mr. Homan? I mean, first of all, is there a tape that has audio and video of the transfer of the $50,000?
You would have to talk to Director Patel about that.
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't know the answer, Senator.
Yeah, you do know the answer to that.
Don't call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar.
You just said I know the answer. I said I don't know the answer.
Well,
there's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein?
Remarkable example of people just talking past each other on all fronts. You know, Democrats laying into her on a whole, all of their hobby horses. I think some of them have more legitimacy than others. Her just yelling back at them as if she was, on Newsmax, just complaining about everything having to do with Democrats, sometimes not even on the issues she was being asked about. And then Republicans, we didn't play into that, but when they got to ask her, then they were just also pontificating about they're upset, in my view, justifiably upset about the FBI trying to obtain metadata on their cell phones relating to investigations. But it's like, what is the point of this hearing? There's no real fact-finding taking place. There's just you saying hysterical anti-administration things, then you saying hysterical anti-democratic things, and then you saying hysterical pro-Republican things. It's just Congress has no function, so they're not making any legislation or anything. So this is just they're creating TV I don't want to watch, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key point. This is like the sensibility of cable news being transported into a Senate committee hearing. So Pam Bondi is throwing out sound bites, really, and sound bites that are intended both to please President Trump, but also to get, Newsmax or Fox or whoever to pick up on them. And, some of the Democrats, I would say less spectacularly, are trying to do the similar thing. I mean, look, I think there are questions to answer about Epstein. I didn't love that Sheldon Whitehouse question because I thought that's
thank you for that. Yeah.
kind of prurient. Now, where I would have the biggest problem, I think, with Pam Bondi's performance is, I think that regardless of where one stands on the ideological spectrum, some of these issues are genuinely and obviously valid and important. If Tom Homan got a Cava bag with 50 grand in cash with it, as has been reported, that is an issue of obvious public interest, and it deserves better than a kind of snide response that is just aimed at the conservative or MAGA media ecosystem. And the same could be said about placing the military on the streets, which you and I have debated before. That's a very fundamental issue. On what basis does a president justify the placing of troops among the civilian population? Major issue. And she didn't really address that at all. So that's where I have the biggest problem with her performance. It was making big and valid issues very sort of small and snide.
Yeah, on the Tom Homan issue, I definitely want to know more information. I don't want to give anyone on any side of this the benefit of the doubt. There are corrupt political officials at every level. One of my own city council members in D.C. was caught accepting a bag of cash. So I am not, and it's not, I don't have some interest in defending Tom Homan necessarily. I disagree with certainly some of the administration's immigration priorities. I am a little bit more, maybe than you, wary of basically kind of law enforcement entrapment schemes in general, where the goal is to kind of find some reason to prosecute you for something that involves them goading you into illegal behavior. I think there was a little bit of that, at least with Michael Flynn, who I think otherwise is a crazy person, not someone I wanted in the administration, but thought he was being asked friendly questions and was giving answers to law enforcement for an extended period of time. And what happens if you talk to police officers without an attorney present for a long time, you can very easily deliberately or inadvertently say something that isn't true and get yourself in trouble. That happens to people in a non-political context all the time. Now, if nobody makes you accept a bag of cash contrary to the law, but I would definitely want to know more information before I believe that one either way. And they're not going to look at it. They're like, no, it's not. It's just not happening.
Well, exactly, which is obviously a problem. I mean, we want to know the truth of the story. Like you, I don't necessarily just accept everything at face value, but I mean, it has been pretty comprehensively reported that a bag of cash was given and accepted. Now, are there extenuating circumstances around that? I don't know, maybe. I mean, it seems pretty suspicious if you're accepting 50 grand in cash in a bag under any circumstances, to me. But the point is that these are valid avenues of inquiry. I do know that one of our separate points of agreement is you certainly should not answer questions from the police without a lawyer present under any circumstances.
No. Would you like to do some crimes with me today? Yes, please. One conviction over here, please. Yeah. Don't do it.
No, very bad idea.
It's shut the F up Friday every day.
Exactly. I firmly agree with that. But in these instances, like not only the Tom Homan thing, but like the troops on the street, like Epstein to a degree, and some of these other issues are, I think, genuinely important. And like I say, I just felt her response to it was overly petty. One other final thing to take us down a complete tangent, Robby, since you mentioned that council member in D.C. One of the things that I will always argue was entrapment was Marion Barry, the now deceased mayor of D.C., and the crack, which if you see the famous tape at full length, that was pressed on him and by somebody who was working for effectively the government. And Barry was reluctant to take it. Eventually he succumbed and, the feds burst through the wall.
There you go. It does happen.
But it does happen.
We'll make a libertarian of you, Niall.
Well, a pro-Marion Barry libertarian. That's a pretty small niche.
Pretty small niche. The last thing I'll say on this before we wrap is that, Pam Bondi is a little bit in some trouble or not great standing with MAGA because, she would have been great at a time period where it's just about complaining about Democrats being in charge and how they're persecuting Republicans and Trump and it's so unfair, wah. But now action is asked of her by MAGA. And so just, talking in a combative way, like I saw clips of it, Benny Johnson sharing clips going, look how well Pam Bondi owned the Democrats.
Right.
Like, I think the base wants more than rhetorical owning now. Trump wants more than that. He wants prosecutions of people who he thinks came after him unfairly. So her just saying things, and then she does say things wrong now and then with the going after hate speech, with the saying she has a Epstein client list. This moment, from the MAGA perspective, calls for action, not just sound bites.
She has definitely made a lot of verbal gaffes, and I think that's the danger of engaging in that sort of fairly incendiary rhetoric if you're not very sure of yourself. But also thank you for reminding me of the James Comey matter, which was the other thing that I thought was a very valid question to ask her about, and she again brushed off or distracted from with kind of personal invective in that hearing. I think you and I would have very different views on the Comey matter. I'll just say for the record, I think it is obvious to me, or plain to me, that it is Trump going after an enemy and using the justice system to try to make an example of that enemy and thus discourage other dissent.
Now, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching this week on Free Media. We've had a lot of fun. Let us know how we're doing, and we'll be back at a later date. See you then.